I wasn't like other kids growing up. I didn't like talking to those smelly things in kindergarten, and I never participated in their silly games. But I had my own games to play, and oh, what fun they were. For example, a little girl once asked to borrow my crayons. I told her she could have them if she told our teacher to fuck off. She got sent home for that. I remember hearing her mother scream about the beating she would get later. Fun games, right? It didn't take long for the teacher to notice that the other children would avoid me, and how I had never seemed to show any emotion of any kind. They didn't think I heard them whispering about me, but I did. I have exceptionally good hearing. "Little monsters," said Mrs. Girthy. "Sociopath," whispered Mr. De Pascal. Even at my young age, I had an extensive vocabulary. I had never heard the word sociopath before, but I was intrigued. When I got home that night and looked it up in my mother's encyclopedia, sociopath, a personality disorder characterized by lack of empathy for others. I would have to agree with you, Mr. De Pascal. Elementary and middle school passed by quickly. I learned to fake emotions and excitement in order to fool my teachers and parents. I couldn't fool my peers though. No matter how convincing my act, they always seemed to instinctually know I was different, and they gave me a wide berth. Every once in a while, one of them would try to make friends with me, and that's when I could really have some fun. But despite how I treated those around me, I didn't hate any of them. It wasn't until high school that someone finally managed to piss me off. That someone was Travis Murphy. The Murphy family moved in the neighborhood before the start of the 10th grade. They had 2 children, a son, Travis, and his sister, Marion. I was looking forward to the inevitable time when my parents would invite them over. Neither Travis nor Marion had ever met me, so they had no way of knowing my sociopathic tendencies. They would amuse me quite a bit. But this time, it would be I who was blindsided. Marion started out easy enough, displaying the normal interest and kindness by those who don't know me yet. After some time, however, I realized that she thought I was handsome, and was even starting to develop a crush on me. No girl had ever done this before, and it was an entirely new experience for me. Fascinated, I decided to spare Marion for my games for a while longer, and keep her around, so I could fake smiles and feign interest in what she had to say. Travis was entirely a different story. He seemed to have little interest in me as I had anyone else. I couldn't play my games with him. He was completely uncaring. It had angered me for the first time in my life. Over the years, I'd come to realize that I was special. Far more important than these insects surrounding me. Why else would they be drawn to me? Even as they know how alien I am to them. For one of these insects to dare ignore me. For the first time in my life, I had made the first move. I tried making small talk with Travis. I feigned emotion and interest in his life, and did everything I could to make him interested in me. Nothing. I was furious at first for his lack of interest, but over the years I came to realize he was like me, a sociopath, completely devoid of caring for others. Instead of alleviating my frustration, has only increased it. I was special, unique. But now there was another one like me. If I wasn't unique, could I still be special? Or was I ordinary? Just another insect? No. I refuse to be ordinary. One may as well be dead. And so, that's what I endeavor to do from this day forth. I would make Travis ordinary. I would kill him. Fueled by passion as I was, I waited. High school passed and college started. Trifles. I learned new ways to express myself through sex with Marion. I learned the value of pain and how to make her beg for it. It was all very fascinating at first, but like everything else, it eventually lost its intrigue. My focus shifted away from Marion and back to Travis. I was fully ready to kill him, but cautious. I wasn't naive enough to think these insects would let me get away with it if they knew I murdered him. I wasn't naive enough to think these insects would let me get away with it if they knew I murdered him. And I wanted to avoid prison at all costs. I fear nothing except boredom, and that's what prison is. Endless boredom. I couldn't act impulsively. I had to be calculating and crafty. As long as I was taking my time, I figured I may as well have some fun. My first chance to toy with my prey came about my second semester in college. Travis and his family were leaving for a week to visit a relative or some such bullshit. And they were leaving their dog behind. They paid a neighbor to check in on him 3 times a day, give him food, and take him outside. I watched this for 2 days, learning the schedule before making a plan. The night before the Murphys returned, I crept into the house after the neighbor had fed the dog for the last time. Marion had given me a security code to shut off the burglar alarm, so I could sneak in for sex. Wearing gloves and a mask, I entered the house, unseen by the sleeping neighbors. The dog knew my scent and wouldn't bark. He was bound to me, tail wagging, tongue hanging stupidly out of his mouth. I worked quickly, taking his head in my hands and crushing it, driving my thumbs down into the eye sockets and feeling the dog's skull fracture in my palms. He let out a quick whimper before falling silent forever. Good boy. I brought a homemade kit along with me, a scalpel and various instruments stolen from the science lab. I eviscerated the dog, wrapping his intestines around the living room light, ensuring it would be the first thing the Murphys see when they got home. The thought of them turning on a fan and being pelted with drops of blood amused me. I used most of the dog's blood to write a threatening message. "You're next," on Travis's room wall. I left the carcass on his bed as a private joke. I left the dog's heart on Marion's pillow. Satisfied with my handiwork, I went back to my dorm, where I slept quite soundly. There was a big commotion the week following the day the Murphys returned. Stories and images of the carnage in their house were on the local news every night. There were rumors that the Murphys were moving away soon. Supposedly, Miss Murphy couldn't stand to be in the house anymore. I had to act fast. I couldn't allow my prey to escape from me. Sitting in my dorm, I dreamt of all manner of destruction for my enemy. There was a flash of light over my wall, headlights from outside. That was odd. It was almost midnight on a Saturday. Nearly everyone was already gone. Curiosity overtaking me, I went to the window to see who could be coming to the dorm at this hour on the weekend, and I was surprised. One of the few times I was ever truly surprised to see Travis's car sitting in the driveway. Fortune smiled on me. The building was nearly empty for the weekend, and now was a perfect time to strike. My prey was unexpected and alone. After killing him, I would take his body and deposit somewhere else on campus. There was virtually no chance of getting it caught, and no one wants to stay on weekends. And the electricity was shut off on campus for another 6 hours. No security cameras. In a considerably jolly mood, I grabbed my flashlight and a scalpel and set out to stalk my prey. The dark never bothers me. Having very little emotion, my rational mind tends to dominate. And the rational part of human beings know that there's nothing waiting for us in the dark. Or, at least, that's what we think. Several minutes into my hunt, it occurred to me to turn my flashlight off. I didn't want to alert my prey. I switched it off and waited for my eyes to adjust. I leaned against a wall and played with my scalpel to pass the time. A normal person probably would have heard the light breathing in the hall. But I've always had exceptionally good hearing. I whipped my head in the direction of the sound. My eyes hadn't adjusted to the darkness, but I was able to make out a figure exiting down the hall. And I could hear unusually light footsteps. Whoever this person was, they were taking care to avoid detection by me. I rushed to a spot just where they were standing and breathed in deeply. There was just the faintest hint of cinnamon. Travis kept a cinnamon air freshener in his car. I grinned widely. I was in the trail of my prey. I followed him down the hallway and was disappointed to find it branched out into 2 other halls. Again, I tried smelling each hall to figure out which one Travis took. When I heard a brief commotion to the right, I hesitated. Would Travis make much noise if he was trying to get away from me? After a moment, I took a chance to head in the direction of the noise. After a minute or so, I stopped. Ahead of me, there was someone lying on the floor. I approached carefully to realize the body was lying in a pool of blood. I touched it, still warm. I rolled it over to see who it was. Mr. Chauncey, the night custodian. I hadn't realized Travis was capable of killing someone. In my hatred of him, I had forgotten he was just like me, cold and unfeeling. He was more than able to do anything I could. I froze. There was light breathing in front of me again, but I couldn't see its source. For the first time in my life, I felt fear. I no longer felt like a hunter stalking his prey. I felt hunted. My rational mind was overcome by emotion. I fled back to my dorm room in terror. I barricaded my door and waited, scalpel in hand, for Travis to come for me. After several hours, I had started to resent myself for feeling this way. He was only a man, however extraordinary. The fact he had actually frightened me fueled my hatred for him. And I left to search. Mr. Chansey's body was gone. The pool of blood cleaned up. The hints of cinnamon in the air had long since dispersed. I left the building to wait in Travis's car, only to find it was gone too. Fury taking hold of me, I started in the direction of his house. I clenched the scalpel tightly, relishing the fantasies of what I would do to him. I clenched the scalpel tightly, relishing the fantasies of what I was going to do to him. I should have been paying more attention, because I never heard him creep up. I was too slow to avoid the baseball bat swing through the air for me. It connected with my wrist, and I felt the bones snap. I dropped the scalpel and lunged for it with my good hand, but a boot kicked it away. Looking up, I saw Travis grinning down at me. He brought the bat down again and again. I thought he'd never stop, but he did. Lying on the sidewalk, broken and bloody, I waited for death to come. Instead of the Reaper's skull, it was Travis's face grinning down at me. Even though I was helpless before him, I still burned with rage. He leaned close to smell my bleeding face and whispered in my ear, "We're going to have such fun together." I spent 2 weeks in the hospital before leaving against my doctor's wishes. Travis cleanly held back on the beating. I only had a broken wrist and several cracked ribs, though most of my body was heavily bruised. Every step hurt, but I ignored it. I had a purpose. I would never be a victim again. Travis had an advantage over me, in that he knew I would come, and he was not injured like me. So I figured I would even the odds. I stole my father's pistol and waited for night to fall. It was nearing 3 in the morning when I crept up on the Murphy's house once again. The adult's car was gone, but Travis's Mustang was still there. Good. We wouldn't be interrupted. I could take my time. I turned off the burglar's alarm, marveling at how stupid the Murphys were for not changing it. I opened the sliding door and stepped lightly into the house. All the lights were off, but my eyes were well adjusted to the darkness. I silently approached Travis's room and pulled out the gun. After a moment to steady my resolve, I burst in. I was not prepared for what I saw. Travis was lying on the bed, a look of mild surprise on his face. His throat was slashed ear to ear. Blood was everywhere, including a message on the wall that read, "Bad boy." In my shock, I didn't hear the footsteps creeping up behind me, and knew no more of my next moments except for the dull thud on the back of my skull. I woke up in the basement, tied to a chair. Absurdly, my first thought of how cliché this seemed to be. My eyes took a moment to adjust, and I saw the naked figure standing in front of me. Its body was covered in blood, which I presume was Travis's. Through the pounding in my head, I heard the figure speak. I didn't want to do this. Why couldn't you boys just behave yourselves? The figure paced in front of me. No one ever does what they're supposed to do. You weren't supposed to find me. Mr. Chauncey wouldn't get out of my way. The figure stopped in front of me. Travis wasn't supposed to hurt you. I told him not to. But after he realized what you were, he just couldn't help himself. I suppose that's why you went after him too. The figure stroked my face tenderly. I watched you kill our dog. You never knew I was there. I'm real good at hiding. It was so sweet of you to leave me the heart. I still have it. Marion smiled at me. I could see something in her eyes. Something I didn't have. The absurd part of my brain to point out the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. We have the silliest thoughts at the silliest times, don't we? I didn't want things to work out this way, but it's okay. We'll make it work. I'll kill my parents when they come home, and we'll go far away to someplace beautiful where we can be together forever. I thought about feigning emotion and manipulating her into letting me go, but I knew when I looked in her face it was useless. She didn't care about my situation, only hers. A complete lack of empathy.